Hey, so in the last video, I was talking a little bit about having a process orientation. And the process orientation for me is really, it's very much connected to psychology, to having a psychological perspective on what it is to be human. And by psychological perspective, I mean having this sort of understanding that beneath the surface, beneath what we present to the world, beneath the carefully curated self that shows up on social media and shows up in the real world, where we present the best version of ourselves, and we try to seem confident and rational and emotionally balanced and easygoing, right? All the different things that we feel like we're supposed to be. That underneath that, for all of us, there is an unconscious or a subconscious world where we carry our unresolved traumas, our unacknowledged emotions, the desires that we think we're not supposed to have, the reactions that we try never to show anyone, right? That all of that is universal. Human beings just have that particular layer of our mind, if you will, of our being, right? It inhabits our bodies as well. Mind-body practice, I think, really is about acknowledging that interwoven sort of nature of what we are. And so having a kind of like a psychology positive attitude, or having an acceptance of psychology, is really about saying that anytime we engage in an awareness practice, there's a high likelihood that material is going to be there, right? That the judgments, the competitiveness, the comparison, the attempts to control things that we can't control, the fears that we have, the associations, the unresolved traumas, the deep needs that maybe didn't get met through our growing up process, that's going to be there. And again, that's not in the way of the practice, that actually is the way. Yeah, so on the yoga mat, I'll say that whatever seems to be in the way actually is the way. Same is true in meditation, and at Dance Tribe, I'll sometimes say, if nothing is in the way, then everything becomes your dance partner. So for me, this psychologically informed perspective on mind-body practice it's really about honoring the inner life and having the intention to become more intimate with our own inner world, gaining greater skillfulness and compassion and insight through this psychologically informed perspective. And so I think for practicing any mind-body technique, and especially for teaching any mind-body practice, being psychologically informed and having a positive attitude toward the psyche, toward the value of process, toward the inevitability of shadow material and difficult emotions and the ubiquity of trauma that everyone has, trauma and grief and suffering, that this is all part of it. And this is not just unique to like a Western psychological model. If you look at Buddhism, it's all the way through what's being discussed there as well. Human beings in all times and all places have wrestled with this. You look at ancient Greek philosophy, you'll find that they're talking about this in some way or another. Some of the orienting sort of metaphysical assumptions might be different depending on the tradition and the culture, but this is the human condition. This is just what we're dealing with. And so having an accepting and a curious attitude that really sees engaging with this material as valuable, I think is absolutely essential. And that doesn't necessarily mean that, every yoga teacher has to also be a therapist or something like that, right? It doesn't have to mean that. If you want to do that, that's wonderful. Do that. I recommend it. But I think there's a way of embracing a psychological point of view that really acknowledges that this is entirely natural, that if we engage in any kind of mind-body practice consistently and honestly, we're real with ourselves, this is part of what shows up. This is just the deal with being human. And so building in to the way we're practicing yoga, whether we're on the yoga mat, or whether you're on the meditation cushion, or whether you're on the ecstatic dance floor, or whether you're on the bodywork table, right? In all of these different contexts, building in an understanding that we can use the tools of the practice to meet ourselves in that authentic, intimate space with a lot of curiosity and kindness, I think is absolutely key. And it's passionate. It's something I'm passionate about in everything that I share in the world. And it's certainly something that that I seek to imbue my teacher trainees when we do the Awakened Heart Embodied Mind teacher training. And it's such a labor of love for me sharing that work in the world. That's a huge part of what I'm seeking to do, is to put yoga teachers out into the world who are grounded in that particular perspective. So hopefully that makes sense. I know I'm rambling a little bit, but talk to you soon.